We're now streaming live. Awesome. We're doing it.
So it's setting it up.
It's streaming now. We're live.
I don't see us as live.
Up above it says webinar is now streaming live on YouTube.
Okay. One second. All right. Hi, everyone. We're about to start.
Yay. I wish we could see everyone's faces.
I know.
It'd be so fun. Although it could be a distraction seeing hundreds of faces. I think it'd be fun.
So we're going to get started in a minute. How many people are online? I don't see it right now.
I think you have to like move the screen.
Oh, okay.
Are you on your YouTube screen?
Right now, yeah, but I'm leaving now.
You should see it on your YouTube screen.
Oh yeah, 240 people watching.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, you guys. So we're going to begin in 1 minute. Lorie, I'm really pleased to be connecting with you tonight. I feel like we haven't done this in a while.
It's been a couple weeks.
I know. I'm really happy.
I'm excited to be back. We
So,
never go anywhere.
We never go anywhere. We're just in another episode of the now.
The last episode was quite interesting.
It sure was. And by the way, you guys, we haven't prepared anything. So we don't know what's going to come through.
Let me ask you a question. If you were to have to title the episode of the last 2 weeks, what would the title be?
Ooh. Pummeled by transformation.
Oh, with I just keep seeing like a turtle going into its shell, hiding from the hailstorm.
Totally. Oh, it's being stubborn.
Pummeled by the transformation.
By the what? Pummeled by my transformation.
It's so good.
Oh, why is my light not working? That's odd.
Is it not on?
Yeah, I decided to stop.
Oh, I couldn't tell a difference.
That's so weird. Oh.
Let me see when you sit down.
No, because it's not on. 1 second. How weird.
Hi, guys. Oh, it turned back on.
All right. So what would you title it?
Turtle in a shell.
That's a good title. Oh my God. All right. So I know one thing that I want to discuss tonight is how right now there's like a cornucopia. You know what that is? A cornucopia filled with fruit. But it's not fruit. It's energy that is here to accelerate us. If we take heed of it and if we grab it, we have to start seeing our physical body as a vehicle or a spaceship. And we need a propeller to make it go. And so these energies that are coming up are acting as that fuel so that you can quantum leap yourself into a higher domain of frequency. So what are these energies? These energies are all the tendencies we have to go back to our old ways. And rather than capitalizing on them or gathering that energy, kind of like raking a pile of leaves, you're raking a pile of energies, not bypassing those opportunities and really leveraging them so that we can take off into this higher timeline or into this higher frequency domain.
Yes, because it's almost like we've had so much practice with the opportunities that we've been given. We've had so much practice this last year, and it's almost like we need to graduate, which means that we now need to recognize that every single thing that is appearing in our reality, everything that is popping up, every energy that's coming in, every thought that's coming in, every belief that's coming in, every emotion, every behavior, every argument, everything is an opportunity to become not only the creator, right, but also the transformationalist. You're constantly being given an opportunity to transform, and transformation doesn't end, right? So there's no such thing as like, when is this going to be over? It's just ground in, plant your feet, get your body into this whole thing, and start to peel back and peel back and peel back and just keep going. Everything that we are being given right now is an opportunity to continue to transform, to continue to become, to continue to step into the life that we have been birthed into, that we've just fallen into amnesia and forgotten about. But here's really quickly what I want to say is that, and you said this in your video yesterday, which was genius, or the day before, it's the easy way out, right? It's easier to jump out and just go back.
Oh, I know.
Fall back to the old ways.
I said choose the hard way in, not the easy way out. This
right.
will be an inside job. It always was, and it always will be.
Yep. It's so easy to go back to the like, oh, well, everything's gonna, there's the amount of distraction that we have in our life to keep us out of the peeling back of layers that we've all been going through these past 16 months. It's easy to go back to distraction. It's easy to go back and say, okay, I don't have to do this anymore. And that's okay if humans decide to do that. But the opportunity that we are being given right now is to birth this new reality for ourselves, to birth this new human within ourselves, to birth this new way of being within ourselves, which in the initiation process feels like you're going through hell sometimes, but it's birthing us into absolute freedom and abundance and joy and love and the ability to stand with people that you don't agree with and be able to hold that space for them and not be in all the arguments and not be in victimhood, right? Like, we're having this opportunity over and over and over again to be able to become the advanced multidimensional humans that we came here to be. And so it's almost like there's this energy right now that I've been feeling where there's an opportunity to kind of slip back, right? Or what's the word I'm looking for? Like a slip and slide, where like if you start to go down the slope, you're just going to keep going.
Slippery slope?
I don't know, something like that. Yeah. There it is. It turned back on.
Yeah. Yeah, slippery slope. Yeah. I love everything you just said. I feel like the reason why I wanted to title this, and we both came up with the title of "This is an Opportunity of a Lifetime," is because every single time we fall unconscious, we fall from that higher state, we go back into amnesia, we're literally rejecting the aspect of the higher self that is attempting to transport us into that higher reality. It's not even a higher reality. It's your true original essence. It's your original frequency. It's your native frequency. And there's a lot of counterintuitiveness, or I want to say a lot of contradictions that we make as humans. We say things like, I don't understand why I'm not manifesting the love of my life, or I don't understand why I'm not able to attract abundance to me. But how can you attract and receive abundance or receive that inpouring of possibilities and opportunities if you're still rejecting that aspect of yourself that accepts everyone, that embraces difference, that respects everyone's free will, that respects everyone's free choice. There's this narrative right now where we want one thing, but we do the other. We say we want this, but then we do that. So unconsciously, we're still battling ourselves, not realizing that if we were to just surrender to the higher self, if we were to just appreciate everyone and respecting the fact that they have a free will, just like we want our free will to be respected, then we would be able to usher in this higher form of light. We are light encased in this human form. That's what we are. We are light encased in this human form. And what we do is we're constantly disowning ourselves, meaning our true selves, by choosing to play in the lower self reality of the ego games. It's an ego game to say, I cannot believe that my family's choosing to get the vax. I cannot believe that this person is choosing not to get the vax. That's an ego game. It's a superiority complex. It's a self-righteousness. It's a I'm holier than thou and I know the way. And all that does is it perpetuates war. It perpetuates strife. It perpetuates conflict. I mean, look at what's happening in Israel and Palestine right now. Same old dance, same old song. That's because one person doesn't want to drop their pride. It's on both ends. It's never going to stop. So the message I got today was what's happening in Israel and Palestine isn't for Israel and Palestine. It's for us.
I got the same message. It's so crazy. Yeah, I swear to God. I actually said it in my Patreon community today. Swear to God.
Can you expound on that? Why do I look so honey? I look like but I don't look like that in person, you guys. I'm just being
You look fab. Okay, listen, I swear this is what I got because somebody asked in my Patreon, they said, I live in Israel and I don't know how to navigate this. How do I stay in my light? How do I stay in my heart when I'm watching children and families hide from these bombs and get killed and et cetera, et cetera. And what came through, I've received this before, but when this is about human against human. So it's this human that doesn't agree with this human that doesn't agree with this human. But here's the key, the caveat. There's a larger system that's controlling humanity, right? And so when you create a divide and when you play in that divide, what you're doing is that you're perpetuating the divide. You're perpetuating, if you're on this side, let's just say vaccine or Israel, and this is Palestine, no vaccine. It's the exact same thing, right? It's a different sort of energy. It's a horrific different energy. I get it, but it's the same principle, which is let's distract humanity and let's get them to fight against each other for really no reason. We're going to create the reasons. We're going to create the symptoms for the divide.
I think we stopped. 1 second. I'm so sorry. Something happened.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. 1 second. Okay, I'm so sorry.
I see. It says YouTube. Is it not on YouTube?
No, it's not on YouTube.
It's not?
Okay, at least we weren't like 15 minutes in.
That's so weird.
Oh, it's fine, they're saying. But, okay, we haven't stopped apparently.
No, it's live. I see us.
Okay. But, okay.
What's what, you can't see it?
You know what it is? Oh, yeah. Okay. I think we're good. Okay, we're on YouTube. It's fine. We're just going to trust it. We're going to trust it. Thank you, guys. Okay, sorry about that. Keep going.
Are we good?
I'm not going to look at that screen.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so the divides that we're watching right now, the key to understanding what's going on in Israel and Palestine, what's going on all over the world, right, is divide. It's starting to recognize that when you find yourself in divide, which is I'm on one side and you're on the other, whether it's a country, whether it's an opposing view, whether it is about sexual orientation, whether it is about vaccine, whatever it's about, there's going to be one person on one side and one on the other. And this is what we are literally stepping out of. And so what you want to start to practice is the person that's on the other side is just doing the exact same thing that you're doing, but on the other side. So it makes no sense. Divide makes no sense when you start to think about, okay, I'm on one side getting upset over this, on that, getting upset with that side. This side is on the other side and they're getting upset with me. It's the same thing. It's asinine when you think about divide. Because when you start to come into higher self, when you start to embody your light, when you start to embody presence, divide makes no sense because you're looking at somebody else that has an opposing view. And Israel and Palestine is a completely different game all in of itself because it's created by an entire system. It has not, they don't even, it's being imposed. It's being imposed. So is all of this, actually, if you think about it, it's all being imposed, right? So we're all being imposed with these issues to divide ourselves.
We're being pinned against each other.
Yes.
We're being pinned against each other. We're being made to be at odds with each other.
Yeah.
But nothing can make us be at odds with each other. What happens is we end up falling hook, line, and sinker for it.
Right.
And so the divide is really just, it circles back to judgment. So it ties in with judgment. Everything is about judgment. Everything. People need to understand that the ego thinks it's hot shit, okay? So the ego isn't the enemy. We want to teach it a new way, but the ego wants to dominate everyone and everything. It wants to control everyone and everything. It wants to manipulate stories. It wants to manipulate people because it's terrified of the unknown. It's terrified, and it loves power. It's power hungry. So even with Israel and Palestine, it's all just a vying for power. Who's right, who's wrong, duality, separation. And so what we want to do is recognize that everything that's happening on this world stage is for us to take a deeper look at ourselves, to have a reckoning. A reckoning is a coming to face with yourself. I mean, I saw a guy yesterday with a postcard about Israel. What is that really going to do? Honestly, what is that really going to do? In the grand scheme of things, you could say that one person can affect change, but there's more potency and more effect, positive effect, if you take that postcard and rather than playing it out physically, go within yourself and ask yourself why you want to play that physically. What is driving you to step outside of your apartment, to grab a postcard, to write something on it, just to have a few cars look? When really the vibrational threading out, the energetic threading out would be a lot more potent and a lot more ripply if you went in within yourself and you said, this game has been played before. The only way to affect change is to transmute this on my own. The only way.
Because if you think about energy, this is really important, this conversation right now about divide, because it's going to continue. It's going to happen with everything, every storyline that's going to be told to us coming down the pipe from systems that are larger than, at play here, right? The large systems at play, government, media, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to continue to play out these storylines that are going to divide us. The key here is to recognize that I'm on, and literally say this to yourself. If you have a sign and you're raising your sign because you want to stand up for a country, what I want you to think about, or you're standing up for, some sort of rights of some sort, right? Whatever it is, I don't even know. What I want, and this is not easy, okay? But this is what we want to start to embrace or start to look at. When I hold up a sign or when I am standing up for one side of something, you're basically you're basically on one side of the lane, right? Or one side of the street, and you're looking at a different side of the street. You're against another side of the street. Do you understand? You're against something else, whatever it may be, you're against it. And what you want to start to do on an energetic level is, instead of go up against something, I'm going up against something. I'm standing up against something. That's a divide. What you want to do is you want to honor the fact that there are other humans, 4.5 billion other humans, that are not going to necessarily see it your way, and may do things that you don't agree with. And so you have to figure out how you energetically are going to find peace instead of against, but peace within yourself, of allowing this to play out. If we stopped holding up signs, if we stopped creating a back and forth divide, I'm on one side, if we stopped fighting people that were getting the vaccine or not getting the vaccine, there would be no power in it anymore. It would dissolve. It wouldn't even exist. It would be like, is anybody getting a vaccine? I'm not sure anymore. It would be gone.
I call that you're taking the funding away.
Yeah.
We're taking the funding away from that thing that we've been so invested in, that kept us entrenched in that dualistic existence. You're taking the funding away. You're taking your power back from it, and then it melts away. It just melts away. Doesn't need to exist. And I think that so often we stand for a cause and we are attempting to change a previous now. But that's not really being in the now. Being in the now is there's nothing left. This is all that exists. This is all that exists. And people might say, oh, but you don't understand, this thing is historical. Yeah, but it's showing up again because the humans that were participating in that couldn't see that it was about them. It wasn't about that. Including the vaccine, including all of it, the judgment keeps us in a prison. That's the message that came from me tonight. Our judgment keeps us in a prison. So we end up taking that self-judgment and we end up projecting it onto the world. And that's the crux of our suffering. We suffer because we're still not trusting that higher force, the soul force, the God force. I mean, think about it. If we all had an ability to tap into our inner resources, we would know that we are abundant. When you know you're abundant, you don't fight for things. You don't fight for things. This is mine. This is mine. That's a scarcity mindset. And I know that to the general population, that sounds very outlandish. Oh, but we can't just stop. But at some point, we do have to stop. At some point, we have to stop and say, what is it that's igniting this aspect of me that wants to fight for one side? In the grander scheme of things, everyone is right. If you decide to get the vaccine and you have your reasons to back that, you're right. You're right in terms of what's true for you. So if I was to negate what's true for you, then I wouldn't be honoring you as a soul. It would be similar to telling someone, oh, you're a wussy because you don't want to leave your job. If you don't like it, just leave. That's incompassionate. That's insensitive. That person has their reasons for being there. Maybe they are mustering up the courage or the confidence to eventually leave. But why is there such a rush on things all the time? And I'll tell you why there is. Because everyone wants the drive-through. They don't want the breakthrough. Everyone wants the express checkout. They don't want the breakthrough. The breakthrough is the hard way in. The breakthrough is going deep within ourselves and investigating ourselves and asking the tougher questions. Why am I engaging in this? Why? Well, isn't it possible that there's a higher integration that needs to be had? We cannot, and I can't stress this enough, we cannot have peace on earth if we don't have peace within ourselves. This is what all the masters taught, because it's not rocket science. If you have a fragmented human who's still caught in judgment, still caught in ego, creating separation, more of it actually, Because when you're judging yourself and you project it onto others, other people feel judged and it creates more divisiveness. If you have individual humans who are still stuck in fragmentation, in the ego, and they're not unifying their microcosmic body, how can the macrocosmic body ever become unified? It can't. It's not possible. It's like someone who goes on a diet to lose weight, but they don't understand the root of why they're going on a diet. They don't understand, why am I going on a diet? I'm just going to do this and I'm going to get those results. Bing, bang, done. That's never going to get you the result. You're always going to have a relapse. You're always going to go back to your old way because there's a deeper wound driving that behavior. And until you figure out what that wound is and you are willing to heal it or address it or remedy it, then no diets will work. It's not possible.
It's such a powerful moment for us right now because we are so deeply wounded humans. We have so much trauma. And when we judge others, it relieves our own trauma it's an unconscious relief because we don't have to pay attention to what's actually hurting within us. And so it's a very unconscious knee-jerk reaction to judge and to divide and to stand on opposite sides of the street and point fingers, because it takes us outside of our own physicality. It takes us outside of our own pain, our own anger at the ways that we were treated as a young child, thinking that it's our fault, all the anger, resentment that we have, something I did something wrong, right? And so instead of going inward and saying, no, you didn't do anything wrong, Lorie, you were just a 6-year-old, we're now pointing it over at the person over here that's deciding to get a vaccine and we're yelling at that person. Or we're in Israel and Palestine and we grew up being told these people are bad, this person is bad, right? And it perpetuates this inability to internally come back home and accept and honor everything. Because if you can come back home and you can accept all of the pieces of you that you don't like, and most of us have pieces of us that we don't like, thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, whatever it is, the more that we come in and feel the stuff that we hate within ourselves, the less we are going to stand across the street from anyone and point fingers and say you're wrong and perpetuate a massive divide that we have been playing in our entire lives. We are born into divide. A baby doesn't have divide. A baby doesn't look at things and say, that's wrong, that's different than me, that's bad. We are taught that. We are programmed to divide. We think it's normal. We think it's normal to get out and tell others how they should be. And what we don't understand is how they're turning around and doing the exact same thing to you. So there is no right in judgment and pointing fingers. We are being asked, all of our higher selves, God, Source is asking us to stop pointing fingers, stop the divide, and come home to all of the pain that you are unconsciously and unwilling to look at, because it takes a heck of a lot of courage to figure out why you're in so much pain and you don't realize it. So you're perpetuating it by pointing the finger and telling everybody else how horrible they are and they need to be wearing masks, and you're killing all these people by not wearing masks. You're actually in a lot of pain and you don't realize it, because you would never do that if you were healed completely, because your light would be shining so bright. You would look at anybody that was doing anything and you would say, I honor you. Keep going. You do you. That is honestly how we are designed to live, right?
I think also it's always good to do a quick check-in with ourselves and ask ourselves if we have certain fantasies, skeletons in our closet, little things that we don't share with the world that we keep hidden. And how would we feel if others judged us for that? I mean, all of us have character defects. All of us have flaws. I know I've had my own obstacles in my life, things that I've never been able to compute. Like, where did this come from? And for so many years, I fought it until I realized it was just to accept myself, even if I'm flawed. And when you finally accept yourself, Lorie, and you know this, when you finally accept yourself, you're in no position to judge other people because you've been through it. You had to look at yourself and accept the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so I think that so often we're so quick to point the finger at others and to delegate blame games, but we forget that we're just the pot calling the kettle black, that we have our own skeletons in the closet, that we have things that we've buried 6 feet under that we're keeping hidden deliberately because we don't want to be figured out. But there's no shame. That's the piece. We have to know that we are the glue. The love is the glue that's going to bind us together. There is no shame. I have zero shame. I'm an open book with everything, with all my weird stuff that I've had in my life, which I never understood, but it haunted me. And the reason I have no shame is because I know that everyone else has this stuff and it manifests in a different way or in a different light. And everyone's been dealt a different deck of cards. And to point the finger at someone else just reveals to us that we're still not looking at those skeletons and accepting ourselves. We're not accepting ourselves. There's beauty in loving your shadow. There's beauty in loving your light, because a true alchemist takes both of them and creates something. We are alchemists. I love what you said. We're transformationalists. I like that too. We are alchemists, and we came here to become masters. And this is one other thing that I want to point out. There will always be diversity on this planet, always, because it's thanks to that diversity. If you have a billion humans running around that all look different, that all act different, that all talk different, there's bullets coming at you from left and right all day long. What better opportunity? This is the opportunity of a lifetime. What better opportunity to garner that energy? Meaning, garnering the energy simply means you're not going to act on that impulse. You're not going to have that default factory setting of having that knee-jerk reaction of the ego. And instead, you're going to garner that energy. And that energy is going to allow you to retrace your footsteps back to your higher self, to your original self. So it's not that you're reaching for your higher self. What it is that you're unifying yourself. You're choosing to no longer play in separation. And every time you do play in separation, you feed the ego. And again, the ego is hungry for power. The ego will keep you fragmented. The ego's been doing that our whole lives. Every single thing that you experience in your daily life that is relative to a trigger, any trigger you experience is from the past. It hasn't been canceled out yet. Think about that. The trigger that you experience has not been canceled out. That's why it's still here. That's why it's still here. So you basically transferred that file from the past into your now because you didn't tend to that trauma. It's a trippy thought, right? To think every trigger of mine has been with me my entire life, and it keeps surfacing to be healed. It keeps coming up to be healed. And I keep shoving it down and stuffing it down, putting it off to a later date when I have an opportunity to do it now. With all this information blasting at us, all this information being circulated, this is the momentous time on the planet to fully take self-responsibility. And by the way, self-responsibility doesn't suggest or doesn't imply that you don't have your own opinions. It doesn't mean that you don't have your own opinions, but it does mean that you don't judge other people for their opinions.
It's such a tricky, it's such a powerful opportunity to take a very courageous look in the mirror right now, because every trigger is connected to a trauma. It's like a little energetic cord, right? And so every trigger is usually from another human. There's no mistake on that piece, right? So usually it's another human body that sort of triggers that. And then what do? We blame the person. We point the finger at the person. So we're perpetuating divide. We're perpetuating judgment. Our traumas and that trigger is perpetuating what the trigger is asking us. It's the opposite of what the trigger is asking us to do. The trigger is asking us to go in and clear it so that we will no longer judge and divide, right? So that we can stand and look at anyone doing anything, because we can look at ourselves doing anything and love ourselves, right? So if you can look at all of your shadow, all the dirty stuff inside that you can't stand, that isn't even dirty, it's just you, right? And honor it, the triggers will start to dissolve, because the individual doing whatever they're doing isn't going to trigger you anymore, because you have tapped into all the dirty laundry, all the dirty stuff, all the shame, all the guilt, all the judgment, all the anger, all the rage, all the hate, all the whatever. So now you're walking around the world and everyone's doing whatever they're doing, and you're no longer triggered. You're no longer judging. You're no longer blaming. You're no longer pointing the finger. You actually are taking self-responsibility for your life now. You're not blaming it on anyone else, right? So it's like all of it goes hand in hand. The triggers are an opportunity to stop dividing. The triggers are an opportunity to stop judging. The triggers are an opportunity to start accepting. But you have to start somewhere, right? You have to start. So you have to start looking at the trigger. You have to start looking at, who do you want to blame for what you're feeling? Who are you blaming? Who are you judging? When you have an opinion and a truth, do you want to tell somebody else theirs isn't true? That's a judgment, right? That's not sharing your truth. That's judging somebody else's truth because it's not yours. We have to get acute. We've been so programmed, so deeply programmed, that we honestly believe that by telling somebody that their truth isn't right, that's not a judgment, that's just me speaking my truth. And it's actually not. It's you trying to change someone under this disguise of, oh, I'm just sharing a truth. So the humans have to start to get so acutely aware of how they are being in the world with other humans. Am I accepting or am I judging? Am I blaming or am I accepting? Over and over and over and over. When this trigger comes up, what am I doing? Instantaneously, knee-jerk reaction, I'm going to blame it on the other individual. Great. Can I bring it back? When I go out and I want to yell at people that have a different opinion, that have a different truth, that have a different belief, can I remember that they're me, just on a different side? What's the difference?
Literally you in a different human disguise. That's all.
With a different belief.
That's all. They're you. They're literally source energy that chose to express through a different DNA structure.
Right.
That's all.
And they have a different truth. And what's the problem? It's crazy to start thinking about the divide. It's like, wait, I'm so confused. I get it, but I'm like, I'm a little confused.
Two things I'm getting. When you were talking about triggers, this is what I heard. A trigger is an invitation to a dinner party. Sit at the round table with all of your traumas and you realize that they're not the enemy. I just got that now.
They're not the enemy.
A trigger is an invitation to a dinner party where you get to sit at a round table with all of your traumas and you realize that they're not the enemy. The other thing I got is, I promise you, Lorie, that most people in Israel and Palestine right now are all worked up, riled up, judging the opposing side. And the only people making a difference, you guys ready for this? Drum roll. The only people making a difference are the people saying, hey, do you realize you're judging them right now? I understand. So there's someone in Israel who's a light worker, who's a way shower, who's someone who's I like to call it an agent of change, of positive change. And their mom or their uncle is going off on a tangent. And this highly awakened person in Israel is saying, hey, I understand, but can you also see this other perspective? How beautiful is that, right? To know that the people affecting change on this planet are not the ones playing in the rabble, in the melodramas, because again, that only energizes the traumas. It keeps them alive. Keeps them. Not only does it keep them alive, it multiplies them.
Yeah.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
But that those people are the agents of change.
And those people are all over the world.
Over the world.
So say it again, because this is how, so if, you know, the woman in my Patreon, she says, how do I hold the light, right? How do I hold this light in the midst of death, children dying, right? So how do I hold both sides when I am experiencing people literally running into bomb shelters and things like that? You know, let's go to the grips of it, the depths of it, right? And I think what you said is how you do it, and it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's also not about holding the light. It's about being the light.
Right.
That sounds so trite, but when you are the light, you become the higher self. And we are here to epitomize and exemplify the higher self. We are here to emulate the higher self. We are actually here to become it. But think of it like this: the higher self dwells outside of time and space. It's not affected by things. In other words, if you choose to get super drunk, super annihilated, your higher self isn't going to be scathed. You're going to be scathed. If you choose to get in a narcissistic relationship, your higher self has the popcorn and is watching you play out whatever you want to play out. The narcissistic relationship is only going to hurt the lower aspect of the self, the person in human form. What we're here to do is integrate the higher self. We're here to become the embodiment of that, to become that aspect. But the higher self is indifferent. The higher self is impartial. The higher self is the light. It holds the highest frequency. So when you become the light, everything rolls off of you like a duck, like water off a duck's back. It rolls off of you. So one thing that's been coming to me all week is, because there are a lot of people suffering right now, they're confused, they're lost, they might call you up. They might call you up and let you know how they're feeling, maybe air their dirty laundry, maybe complain. But rather than trying to swing them over to your side and be like, cheer up, or hey, just be positive, or just be grateful you have a roof on top of your head, that's not serving them. Right now, you have to meet them at their level. So if someone calls you up and says, I'm really struggling, this happened to me this week, someone said that to me. It's like, okay, I need to step into their world and I need to follow the conversation without interjecting my advice, without giving my 2 cents, without trying to change it. Because again, when you try to change it, what happens? It fans the flames. It pisses them off. They don't feel seen. They don't feel heard. They don't feel acknowledged. They're going through something. And I think that's a really good example as to what's going on right now, except that it's happening collectively. I'm talking personally. When you have a sister or brother that calls you and says they're struggling, can you follow the direction of their energy and fully lean into that? Because when you do that, you're actually healing yourself. You're not, right? You're not trying to thrust them into your dimension.
Nope.
And not only are you healing yourself by following their lead, that's service to others, you are enabling them to be seen. So for the first time, because most of us are not broken, We believe we're broken because no one wants to listen to us. No one wants to listen to us. So we stay broken. We're like a phone screen that's all scratched and all chipped and all broken. When you listen to your family member, when they're getting things off their chest, when they're spilling it out, they feel seen again. They get to unify in real time. And then the next time they're around someone who shuts them down, they're like, that's not love. How cool is that? The next time they're around someone who doesn't listen, they're like, wait, that doesn't feel like what Lorie did for me the other day. That doesn't feel like what Phil did for me the other day. I've been shown what it means to be loved because that person modeled it and they showed me I wasn't broken. That's how we heal the world.
It's exactly how we heal the world. It's empathy. Basically, you're talking about empathy.
That was deep, yo.
You're talking about empathy, okay? Empathy. If everyone was empathetic, I'm not talking about, I'm an empathic. No. Let's throw that out the door because that's not going to be part of our conversation. Empathy is when you put yourself in someone else's shoes. You feel what they're going through. You don't try to change them. You don't try to make them right or wrong. You don't judge them. You don't have an opinion. You just allow them to be, and you try to imagine what it must be like. It's different than compassion. Compassion is where you feel for the other person, right? You're feeling for them, you're experiencing it. You're like, oh my God, my heart goes out to you, right? That's fine. Empathy, very different. So you're in Israel, someone else is in Palestine, and you're running around with your head cut off thinking, how am I going to survive this? And the knee-jerk reaction is to get angry and volatile and pissed off at the other side. Empathy is immediately going to, there are other families on the other side that are going through the exact same thing I am. It'll instantly, think about that for a second. Think of how quickly it shifts your energy. When you think about, instead of getting angry and pissed off at what's happening in your world, you're visualizing and imagining other families on the other side that are going through it as well. What are they going through? And what does that do? It immediately dissolves the divide. It dissolves the divide, right? So when you're walking around and you're finding yourself up against these people that you can't understand and that you're battling against, even in your own family, you fall into empathy, which is, what is it like to be in their shoes? What's it like? And when you find yourself in that space, you can listen, you can allow, you can accept, maybe, you won't judge because you're in their shoes. And the more that humans can move themselves into somebody else's shoes, the faster this entire world will heal. That you will never judge again. You look at a homeless person, you look at a husband that is an alcoholic that comes home every night and drinks all night long. Knee-jerk reaction, judgment. Knee-jerk reaction, opinions. Knee-jerk reaction, blaming. Stop for a second and throw yourself into their feet. What must it be like? Not what's right, what's wrong, what they should or shouldn't do. What would it be like to be in their shoes? And that is how the entire world will change. So we start with ourselves. You started with a conversation. You were just listening. You were holding space. You were empathizing.
But I'm still working on it, by the way. So I want people to know that I'm very much in the classroom, because sometimes when you've already graduated from a level, I'm not saying I'm like top of the class. I'm saying that when you've graduated from a level and you see someone in your family or in your friendship circle going through something you've already graduated from, you don't want to see them suffer. So that's where it gets a little complicated. You don't want to see them suffer, and you already have the solution or the antidote. You already have that vibrational prescription or the medicine. You already know, like, hey, like it's happening, but they don't want that right now because they're not there yet.
And they didn't ask you. Did they ask you?
No, they didn't ask me. So I want people to know that I'm a work in progress too, but there's something so beautiful about taking the vantage point of this person is testing the waters by opening up to me to see if they can drop into a safe space with me. Healing happens by remembering we are safe, have always been safe, and will always be safe.
And we won't be judged.
And we won't be judged. Judgment, think about judgment, right? Like this whole time, the planet, Mother Earth, is like, you guys are home. Your home isn't in the Pleiades. Your home is here, but your traumas have caused you to vacate the body and never really plant yourself in this planet. This planet has every planet in it. This planet is our home. It's one of our homes. But what we do is the fear is so real and it runs so deep that we never actually anchor into the body. We never anchor into the body. So if someone opens up to you and is taking the pulse, like, can I? And then you allow them to feel safe, they're like, wow, I feel more in my body now. Thank you for this conversation. That's healing. Healing isn't out there. Healing isn't opening up the fifth chakra and then going into the fifth chakra. No. Healing is dropping into your body and nothing can touch you. Your body was made by God. It was probably made by you. It was made by many beings as a temple to keep you 100% safe and secure.
Always.
So anytime you get inundated with negative thoughts, with insidious thoughts, with attacks, that right then and there is a telltale sign that you're not feeling safe in your body. Your body was designed to keep you safe. So then you have to ask yourself, you have to go, wait a minute. I should not have negative thoughts. This is my body. This is my mind. This is where I'm going to live the rest of my life.
A lot of people are like, wait, no, I'm not.
I'm not, but this is how twisted it is, Lorie, and then we'll get to you in a second. We feel safer in our apartment than we do in our body. No, just think about that for a second. We feel safer in an apartment, which isn't actually yours. Which isn't actually yours, honey. You feel safer in something that isn't yours, something that can evict your ass, and you feel less safe in the body that was created for you by God.
It's very true. Because when we were born, when we dropped in as beautiful little spirits, as courageous, massive spirits, think of all the judgment. Think of all the don't feel that, don't say that, don't think that, don't do that. Think of every time we just wanted to express ourselves and we were told, shut up. You can't do that. Don't say it like that. Behave. Follow the rules, right? Don't feel sadness on top of the trauma. So of course we don't feel safe in our bodies. And one of the things about this massive awakening is that we have always been safe in the body. We've just been living, we dropped into a world that has such dense consciousness in it and such programming that those that programmed us, that were programmed by those, that were programmed by those, weren't able to break out of this, forgot who they were, weren't able to allow that little being that dropped in to just express itself the way it wants to be expressed. And that's what we're relearning right now. How do I let my family member, the little spark of light that never really got to be seen as a little child or a little whatever, finally be seen? How can we see every adult, every child, every adolescent as that light that just wants to be seen? How do we allow that?
It's God. It's God is ensconced in everyone's body. And when you start to see people as God moving differently or like playing with her hair differently, it's like a mind trip. That's how I see people. I just see God. Like yesterday, I was walking behind my neighbor and he just got a new dog. The dog was freaking out. And I was like, oh my God, that's God having an experience through this dog for the first time. And the dog is afraid of all the noise and all the cars. But I started laughing out loud alone because everything is God. It's so endearing. Really, it's this omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent consciousness that is in a different configuration.
Right. Jumping around,
Oh
trying to figure out its body. Like, what is all this?
noise, and the person, its owner, is also God.
Right.
Different configuration, saying
Right.
you're fine. So, anyways, my point is, I just want people to take heed of this once in a lifetime opportunity, because now it's your family members who might be getting the vax or not, who might be wearing the mask or not. Now it's what's going on the news, Israel, Palestine. Now it's the passports, the this, the that, the UFOs. There's so much coming at us that you can literally address every layer of your being. You can address the more personal layers, but it's all energy. It's all energy. But you can address it through your sister that opens up to you, or your brother that opens up to you. You can address it through the news. You can address it through the strangers that talk about the news.
Yeah, think of all the opportunity we have now.
It's endless.
Yeah, there's so much opportunity.
Like, guys, we can quantum leap ourselves.
Yeah.
Now, like, this is
every single moment of your day. If you were to go outside, or maybe even not go outside, if you have a family, you don't have to go outside. You have an opportunity to leap. You have an opportunity to shift. You have an opportunity to change. You have an opportunity to become different, a new version. There's an ample amount of opportunity now in this world that we're in right now. And the reason that there is such a loud, massive divide that's only going to perpetuate and continue is because we are being asked to step out of divide. We're being asked to step out of divide, which means that we're being asked to come home. Come back to your body. Can you come back and love yourself? Please stop being distracted by the divide and the fights and the arguments. They're very loud distractions that are pulling you from what we want you to see, which is the deep, deep trauma inside, so that you can start to love yourself, so you can stop judging humanity, so that you guys can walk through this process of awakening faster. If we continue to divide and we continue to judge and we continue to get distracted by all the subjects that we have out there, it's going to take a lot longer. It doesn't matter. Either way, we get through it. But what we have right now is a massive opportunity. Which level do you want to go to? Like you said, where do you want to go?
Well, do you want a flight, or do you want a layover?
Right.
You want a direct flight to your highest self, or do you want like tons of layovers?
Right.
I want the flight in first class.
I want the direct flight in first class with like the full layback seat, with like I want some blankets and pillows, and listen, I'll do whatever I have to do. But most of humanity, well, I won't say that. A lot of humanity, awakening is not, it's not the popular choice.
No.
I honestly don't think it's the popular choice right now.
Because it's a choice that is not accessible by most humans, because you have to be able to raise your consciousness to have more choice. And a lot of people are not choosing to raise their consciousness, meaning they're getting most of their energy from divisive conversations.
Exactly.
How can you gain access to more choice if you never try something new? You have to try on a different pair of jeans. Think of your frequency as a pair of jeans. You have to try on some new jeans. if you want to see what else is possible. You do. And the other thing that's coming in as I'm speaking to you is be careful with like-minded people too. Because they might get on their soapbox about what's going wrong in the world, but you need to be like that person in Israel who's like, hey, I hear you. However, can you see this other group's perspective, which is that they see themselves as becoming more unified. We have to become the beacon of light. We have to become the shining example. It's so important right now.
It's massive. It's massive.
The homecoming, which is the destination on that first class flight, happens by way of the airport is called clear judgment. So you're clearing judgment, and then you get on your flight and you come back home. So the destination is called homecoming, coming back to your higher self, becoming the higher self, which is indifferent, impartial to everything that's going on. In other words, if you choose to be in a toxic relationship, it's going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt your higher self. And the airport is called clear judgment. This is our time to clear judgment. This is our time to, and by the way, it's not about accepting everything. You can politely reject an invitation to people who require you to be vaxxed to go have dinner. So acceptance doesn't mean you can't reject. You can lovingly, respectfully reject an invitation from someone who's requiring you to get vaxxed or not vaxxed before you go to dinner.
1000%.
It doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means that you come to a cul-de-sac where you say, hey, I love you, but I have to follow what's right for me. And it's bigger than me. I can't explain it. Just like our lives. It's driven by a mighty force, by a mysterious force. I can't explain why I wanted to go on YouTube tonight. It was guided by a mysterious force. It's bigger than me. I can't really explain why I'm vehemently, well, I'm so glad I used that word. I've been wanting to use it. I'm vehemently opposed to wearing masks outside. I don't feel like that's my choice. I honestly don't. I feel like that's guided by a higher force. And it doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean that it's right for you. What it means is that the way that God wants to express itself through me is through a certain configuration, and I need to stay true to that. It's like if you ask someone, why don't you like pasta? I don't know. It's just not my thing. That's not my jam. Pasta isn't my thing. They can't explain it, but they're going to honor it. Because maybe God, this is good, maybe God, source, is having pasta plenty through a different configuration. Isn't that good? Like God's source is having pasta through many different configurations.
You don't need to be one of them that has it.
One of them.
Right.
And the reason why there are going to be differing beliefs is so that we can see where we still hold judgment. Oh my God, you don't like pasta? You're crazy. That's a judgment. Well, that's a judgment. So the reason why there's always going to be all these variations is so that people can look at themselves.
Exactly. And the other thing is, do you guys realize how challenging it is to do what we're trying to do right now in a matrix or in a dimensional field that has duality and polarity? It's like somebody asking you to juggle 5 balls with your eyes closed and you're standing on one leg. It's impossible, but we're doing it. We are in a dimensional field that has such a large spectrum of consciousness, full of duality, which is right, wrong, good, bad, feels good, bad, doesn't feel good. Polarity, right? You can flip the coin and experience something that's opposite of it. Right? So if you experience hate, you can flip it and experience love. If you experience joy, you can flip it and experience unhappiness, et cetera, et cetera. That's what this world is that we are in. And so now we're being asked to step into these more expanded versions of the human, which is, hey, now you're going to try your best, young lady, young man, to no longer judge what other humans are doing and participating and playing in this vast array of consciousness that they have every right to play in. They have every right to do whatever it is that they're going to do, even though we are not going to agree or like it, especially if it's horrific. And so we start with whatever we can start with. We start with the people that we can start with and not have the judgment. So you are invited to a dinner. Your parents want you to come over, but only if you're vaccinated, right? And instead of getting angry and upset with them and pointing the finger at them and saying, you don't understand, you're brainwashed, you're a sheeple, all these horrible names that people are calling these people, right? Which is a judgment. You're just doing the same thing that they're doing. You're going to politely honor yourself and honor them. It's not just about honoring you. You honor them. That's their truth. That's what they need. Guess what? It's not yours. Let it be that simple. Let it be that simple. That's their truth. Just as powerful and as important as my truth is that I'm not going to get vaccinated. So therefore, at this current now moment, we're not going to be able to come into an agreement. Okay. Feel it, experience it, but do it from a place of unconditional love. Is it possible? Is it possible to drop into that place of, and that's not saying I love this person or it's an unconditional love that has an acceptance. It's like an acceptance. Unconditional love isn't that you have to agree with it and do it. Unconditional love is allowing. It's accepting and allowing. When you unconditionally love yourself, you accept and allow.
I love that you said allow, because I was going to chime in and say it's an allowance of the trajectory that soul wants to go on.
Yeah.
I'm accepting that this soul is selecting this particular trajectory. It may not be a first class flight or direct flight, but maybe they like the layovers. Maybe they're not ready to spend $200 extra because maybe they have a fear attached to that money. That's okay. Who am I to say that they're ready for the direct flight? They're choosing a different flight. They're choosing layovers. There's nothing wrong with that. Their soul is going on a trajectory that I may or may not fully comprehend. And it's completely fine and dandy. I think that it's also important to identify, because typically your inner sensors go off when you're blocking your heart. I can feel it. Can you? I can tell when I'm wanting to uplift someone and they're not asking for that. Maybe they're just welling up with tears and they just want to freaking cry a river. And the last thing they want is to be uplifted. I can tell when my heart is closing. I can tell when I'm not following their lead. Why is it so powerful to follow someone's lead?
Because you're honoring them.
And you're surrendering to the current, to the invisible current of the universe, of the greater universe.
Right. And what you're doing is you're not letting your ego lead. So many times when we are in conversation with friends and family, and they come to you with a problem or with whatever, there is an egoic piece of us, the structure, the ego structure that wants to show the other individual, I've got the answer. I can help you. I'm going to show you. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to fix this for you, or I'm going to tell you how to do it better, or what you did wrong, or how you. That's what we do. The hardest.
We're not even wrong. Like, no. We actually have the answer.
Of course. But the harder part, the harder road, is that if they're not asking you, the harder road is to step into you move into your heart, you soften, you move into your heart, you literally let go. So you're not holding the handlebars anymore. And you're letting this individual take you on a ride, right? And so you're just following them and you're like, wow, that's what your life is like. Like, wow, that's what you're feeling. Wow, that's what you're feeling. Wow, that's what you, and then you did this, and then you said that, and then what, and then you did, and then you're thinking in your head, I would have never done that. I would have never said that. Never would have done that. Right. But you're not there to talk about you. You're not there to provide your perspective, right? You're there to follow their path. You're there to follow their soul. You're there to just follow them. Just like what Jesus would do. He would just walk with you. What else? What else do you have? What else is going on? What else are you feeling? He wouldn't be like, well, actually, you should have done this, and then you could have done this, and this was what worked for me, and then this is what, So when they're not asking, most of the time they don't ask, but we don't realize that, and we start to jump in. So if you really pay attention to people's conversation with you, most of the time they don't ask. They don't say.
I want to sidestep for a minute because it correlates to what you just said. When people refer to emotional vampires, it's not true. What it is that you're not fully stepping into service when someone opens up to you.
I just talked about that today.
Really?
Yes.
If someone's complaining and sucking the air out of the room, are they sucking the air out of the room, or are they just wanting to be seen? And can you step into service? It might be a little challenging because them complaining is hitting that spot in you that's like edgy.
Yeah.
But your higher self is asking you to sand those edges.
Yep.
Higher self is saying, just serve.
Yep.
No one can really suck your energy.
Nope.
That's a mentality. It's a victim mentality. And if you want to be a victor, then you serve that person, because you have to try to remind yourself of a time when no one saw you and how horribly lonely that felt. And can you maybe, again, empathize and say, this person is feeling so alone right now. And I know what that feels like. I think it's important for us to capture how we feel when we're down in the dumps.
Yeah.
Just humble.
Yeah. What we're talking about right now, it's really important because it's another way of practicing compassion, empathy, and non-judgment, because it's also about sovereignty. Because when you are sovereign, which means I am inside of my own physical body, and I have a very unique frequency. It's an energetic frequency, and it's encapsulated in this physical form, and it's safe in here. It's got a field around it. It's all solid. It's all good. And it pulsates out this signature. If somebody comes over, calls me, texts me, or standing by me, and they have that energy of like sucking they just suck. They're just like, and then this, 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 and then that. And you're like, oh my God. There's no such thing as an energy vampire. What it is that you are not aware of your sovereignty. And if you're not aware of your sovereignty, which means I'm actually in an encased energetic body, right? I'm good. This person over here doesn't understand their sovereignty, and they've probably never really been heard, right? And so they're constantly seeking somebody to listen, to give them, they live in a lot of victimhood, right? And they're trying to suck and trying to suck. And if you're aware of your own field, you can stand in front of anybody and not be drained, because you're solid. You're in your field. You feel your frequency. When you feel your frequency, nobody's taking anything from you. It's when you're out of your body, not aware of what's happening, that all of a sudden you allow your energy to be drained, and you walk away and you're like, I'm freaking drained right now. They are an energy vampire. No, you gave your energy over to someone, meaning you allow yourself to be drained by another human body that was just more active, right? It's not that nobody did anything to you. So the more sovereign you get, which means when I'm in front of somebody, or when I'm having a conversation, a text message, an email, whatever it is, am I in my body? Am I feeling my energy first? When you're on the phone with your family member, Am I feeling my energetic frequency when I am listening to them? That's how you can empathize. That's how you have compassion. That's how you stop judging, because you're in your field, you're feeling your frequency. It's all about you, right? And then you're allowing the other person to have their own frequency. The more you have your own frequency and you realize it, the more you're going to be able to feel somebody else's frequency and honor it, and be able to allow it to be. So you're watching somebody's frequency and you're flowing with it, safe in your own frequency, right? There's no mesh. There's no meshing of frequencies. When we try to fix someone, we try to change someone, we're literally almost like moving our energies into them and trying to like, hey, this is how I did it. This is my frequency. This is my signature. This is all from heart. We want to help them, but we're trying to merge our signature into their signature. No, stop. Sovereignty to sovereignty, right? If they're asking, that's a different thing. But if they're not asking, then we start merging.
I'm getting something else. That was beautiful. Yeah. Okay, I'm getting something else really good. Does your higher self have beliefs?
No.
Exactly. So that leads me to my next point. If your higher self doesn't have beliefs, and your higher self is integrated through your heart center, because it's about opening up your heart, then when you're in your heart, wide open, being attentive, listening to someone, tending to their needs, you become beliefless.
Yeah. Yeah.
When your heart is open, you actually don't have beliefs anymore.
Right.
But when someone's draining your energy, it's because you're giving, while they're talking to you, this is really profound, while they're talking to you, you're giving your power away to a belief that they're draining your energy. So you're actually not in your heart.
Right.
Because if you're in your heart, you're beliefless. Because you know that beliefs make you suffer.
Right.
Beliefs make you suffer. Some of them harm you. I believe I'm abundant. I believe I'll always be taken care of. Those are positive beliefs, right?
Yeah, but you don't need those beliefs if you actually are those things.
No, because you are the higher self. You literally have
right. Like you and I live in abundance.
Yes.
We don't believe that we live in abundance.
No.
Right? So beliefs, when you're actually being it, you don't need a belief.
Exactly. The higher self is beliefless. When you're in your heart, you're connected to the higher self. When you're in your heart, you're beliefless because you're connected to your higher self. And so you're not giving your power away to a belief that your energy is getting drained. Okay,
I'm having one of these feel good moments that is going to change my life. Nobody understands these, but whenever, every once in a while, actually all the time, when Feel Good and I are doing, why do I call you Feel Good? When we do our slides, I have moments, thousands of them, where my life literally changes. And this is one of those moments. Believe when you are in higher self, when you are higher self, when you've embodied it, embraced it and it feels from that heart-centered space, that's where it nestles. You don't need a belief. Like, it doesn't make sense.
You don't need a belief.
They don't make any sense.
They don't make any. By the way, this is something I got yesterday, which was so brilliant. The universe, how it designed this reality, how it was designed, was that everyone would be on an equal playing field. So being a creator was up for grabs by everyone. And because the universe is unlimited, everyone could become a creator. There's no shortage. It's not a finite, there's only 10 creators in the universe. No, everyone has the potential to become a creator. So when we give our power away, the universe ensured, it created this is very deep, but it created a fail-safe system where if you give your power away, you're actually never giving it away to a human. You're actually never giving it away to a situation. You're always giving it away to a belief about a person or about a situation. So hear me out. the way that the universe set up this game, is it wanted to make sure that everyone could redeem themselves, reverse their traumas, and become a creator. So fundamentally, it's a belief-based game. Beliefs are reworkable.
They're energy.
They're energy, but they're constructs that can be molded, remolded.
Right.
So when you give your power away, meaning when you're unhappy in life, you're not unhappy because of a person. If I could actually have your power, you could be enslaved the rest of your life to me. Are you following?
1,000%.
You gave your power to me directly.
Right.
I could have you be my slave the rest of my life.
Right. Right.
The universe created a fail-safe system
Called beliefs.
called beliefs.
Holy shit.
I just got this yesterday.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
I just got this yesterday.
And I'm getting the vision, because I always get the visions of like, let's say you're giving your power away to a job, or you're giving your power away to a partner, or you're giving your power away to something, right?
They never actually have your power.
They don't actually receive anything. So it goes into this quantum space. It's like it pops out into this quantum space. It's not even real. It's not real.
It cannot be real by virtue of the goodness of the universe.
Right.
The universe would never inject someone with more power because you gave it away to them. What it would do is inject those beliefs with power, the beliefs that you have about that person. I believe that I'm nothing without this person. You're not giving your power away to that person. You're giving your power away to a belief, which you can take back tonight. You can take that power back tonight, and then boom, your beliefs get reworked and you've just redeemed yourself.
And the more that you drop into that heart-centered or higher self space, breath, body, the more you'll be able to acknowledge the beliefs as opposed to the illusion of the individual taking the power.
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to crack it.
Yeah.
Because you'll be able to recognize that it's always been an illusion.
Well, I can even corroborate it. I can even, for people who don't know what that means, I can even verify it. Are you ready? Okay. I can verify this. I'm like a mad scientist. Okay.
This is just another one of those, like, I just jumped another, yeah.
Okay, so.
Staircase.
Let me verify it. If you have a belief that people are sheeples and you think you're right, do you think those sheeples are affected by your belief?
No.
Exactly.
Oh, shit. That took me like 2.2 seconds.
You get it.
That's 1,000%. I get it. If what you just said is not true, then the sheeple would be affected by my belief.
Yeah. So all you're doing is you're giving your power away by calling them sheeples to a belief that you have about those people.
Which is basically just an energetic bubble. You just literally threw energy out into a bubble of nothingness for no apparent reason whatsoever.
It's like a fishnet, but it's always there because you can always reverse it.
So then it becomes, why are you doing it?
You're doing it because you're in that forgetfulness.
Yeah.
You're doing it because you actually have a belief that it is affecting them.
Right. Holy shit.
You have a belief that you think it's actually affecting them.
Oh, wow.
And they don't care. I mean, if someone's in a horrible relationship and you have a belief that they're in the wrong relationship, are they going to care? Hell no. They're still going to be in that relationship.
And that can circle back to the whole, when somebody comes to you to have a conversation about what they're going through, you have a belief that you have the right answer for them.
Ooh.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And if we're going to follow the path of the whole belief thing, then it's pointless. Your belief is going to have really no impact.
Except on you.
Right.
That's all.
Right. Unless it's a conversation where they're like, hey, can you give me advice on ... And even that, right? So if they're like, hey, give me advice on this, then I guess it's not as much of a belief as it is, you're giving them advice of some sort. But
the only time it'll negatively impact someone is if they share the same belief.
Well, wouldn't it increase the belief?
Yeah, that's what perpetuates war.
Yeah.
So if I believe that you're with the wrong guy and you believe me,
yes,
but you don't want to accept that.
Okay.
So if I believe that you're with the wrong guy and you believe me, so you believe.
Do I consciously believe you?
No.
Oh, okay.
You refuse to believe it.
Okay, got it.
But if you get triggered, it means that there's a shared belief. So now it's going to create more havoc. It's going to create more problems. That's what's happening everywhere. Israel, Palestine, all of it. They want the same thing, but like you said so gracefully, they're on two sides of the same equation.
Yeah. And they're perpetuating. They're perpetuating an energetic field. They're perpetuating an energy that isn't even real.
That isn't going to allow them to evolve personally.
At all.
Oh, at all.
It's literally like they're on a hamster wheel. And it's a massive, massive waste of energy and time.
And the whole time, the ancestors that went through it in 1948 are like, my God, they're like shaking their head like, guys, we've been trying to tell you not to do this again. Like, because we're here to clear bloodlines. But those ancestors that walked through that in 1948 or 1940s, they don't want this to keep being perpetuated.
And neither side wants to perpetuate it, right? But they are in a belief system.
It's all beliefs. It's all beliefs.
So look at the United States and all the other countries that are going through this beautiful scripted divide created by governments based on beliefs. Pull away the beliefs. Clear out the beliefs. And then where are you?
In your heart.
Exactly. Pull away vaccinated or not vaccinated. Pull away mask or not masked. Pull away. And you can pull away all of that even while you're in it. Because we can't leave this world, but you can absolutely dissolve the beliefs that are creating the divide, while there is still beliefs creating a divide. So you don't wait for the beliefs to go away from everybody else before you move into your body and dissolve the beliefs by moving into your higher self and into your heart. The beliefs will dissolve. You'll find yourself not in a fight of any sort or a divide of any sort, because the beliefs will be gone. So your parents say whatever they say, your friends say whatever they say, your lover says whatever they say, and you say, oh, those are beliefs. Those actually aren't real. They can dissolve if I drop into my heart my higher self, and I'll find myself walking like Jesus.
Mhm.
So the individual that asked today about Palestine and Israel and how do I do that? Drop into your heart and be your higher self. The beliefs will dissolve. The divide will dissolve.
You even talking about what to do is still feeding the belief. In other words, that person asking about Israel and Palestine, they're not being present within their body. Okay, so I just want people to understand this. When you're fully immersed in your present moment, there is no past, there's no future, there's no story running. So every time we ask a question, we're actually not being present.
But we need baby steps.
Of course, no, 100%. Like I ask questions every day. I'll always ask questions the rest of my life because that's part of expansion. But it's important to recognize that when you do ask a question that has to do with what happened an hour ago, you're not being present.
Right. Or what may happen.
Yes, or what may happen. If you were to practice presence all the time, you would be in a story, but you wouldn't have stories.
I love your face was so priceless.
So practicing presence all the time, you would be in a story, but you wouldn't have stories.
Oh, so here's the piece. Here's the piece for humans that are like, I don't know what to even do. You guys are like confusing me, or how do I even get in here? The baby steps are practicing finding higher self within you, practicing finding that space where that heart center is at, finding that, which for me is just breath and presence, breath and presence, breath and presence, over and over and over. And what happens is, and we were talking about this the other day, what eventually happens is that over time, your persistence solidifies it into a reality. So you're not asking the question anymore. You're just being. Right. So the woman that asked the question earlier today about what can I do, the more she practices presence, heart opened and heart centered consciousness, Christ consciousness, higher self consciousness, the more she brings her awareness to that over and over, practice, so to speak. Right. It eventually will be solidified into a reality where she will naturally be it.
Oh. Wow, I feel like that's a perfect note to end on. But I want you to repeat that one more time, because if people can really get this drilled in, like if they can really register this, this is it. This is it. And the only thing I'm going to add before you speak is heart, higher self, you're in new earth. That is new earth. So can you just reiterate what you just said around being it and how it solidifies it?
Yeah. So in every moment that we live, we have the opportunity to move into the heart center, to move into Christ consciousness, to move into presence, breath, body, awareness of that over and over and over, which then dissolves the beliefs. And as we practice that over and over and over, it's like a patterning, right? We keep practicing moving into heart center, moving into breath, moving into presence, quieting, feeling that heart. What eventually will happen is that the practice is solidified into the reality. It's in your reality. And then it becomes a natural state of being, and you never are practicing it. You are it.
Ooh, it's second nature.
Second nature.
It's true nature.
Yeah, it's true. It's our true nature.
And the other thing is like when going back to the example where you follow the conversation, where you listen to someone, where you lend your supportive hand or a supportive ear, do you need a belief to follow a conversation? You don't.
You actually don't hold belief when you're following.
Oh, you're literally just reflecting their divinity.
Yep.
That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
You're just mirroring their divinity and how what they're going through is divine. It's perfect. But when we don't listen, when we start to speak out of turn, the only thing that causes us to do that is a belief that pops us out of the now, i.e., pops us out of the heart center, i.e., brings us back into old earth, not new earth. So when you speak out of turn or you give your 2 cents to that person when they're not asking for it, you're popping out of your heart based on a belief that you hold that you know the answer or that you know what they should do. The belief pops you out of new earth. So what you're saying is keep strengthening without faltering. Keep holding that. Keep holding it and you'll become it.
Practice it over and practice it in the moments where you're about to have an argument.
Exactly.
Practice it in the moments where you find yourself wanting to blame someone. Practice it in the moments where you find yourself being the victim, right? Practice it in the moments where somebody's calling and they're, complaining about something. Practice it in every moment. Practice it. Practice what? Getting into your heart center. How do I do that? You find your breath. You find your body through your breath. You visualize that energy center. You visualize your higher self in that energy center. You visualize you as higher self because you are. And you start figuring out by settling into that space what it feels like.
You know what I'm getting?
You use that lens.
You know what I'm getting? God source is currently, always, simultaneously in every story. So you accept that you're in a story, but you don't try to change the story. You accept that you're in that story in that moment. My phone rang. Okay, cool. I'm in the story with the awareness of my higher self as the higher self. I'm not trying to change the story. My universe thinks it's important for me or suitable for me to have my phone ring right now. Mm-hmm. And just like God's source is in every story, I'm going to be in this story to serve it as the master, to reflect back to people that they are masters too. And that there's absolutely nothing wrong or flawed about what they're feeling, about what they're going through, about what they're experiencing. It's all divinely scheduled. It's when we start to change the story or contrive the story, which is what news does. They contrive everything because guess what? It's a way to scramble the signal. It's a way to get everyone out of their heart, out of being in the story and constantly trying to change stories. Think about that. They're literally scrambling the signal, contriving everything, spinning everything to pop you out of your heart so that you too can spin stories rather than serve in the story as the master.
And the more difficult the human, that you come in contact with, the faster you will accelerate into that heart center. Meaning when you have a really hard test, right, that you have to take and you study and you nail that test, you are that much more smarter, so to speak, right? Than if you were to take a test that was not so tough, right? Because you didn't learn as much. So when you have somebody coming in that is just irate and they want to tell you off, and their truth is so powerful and important and yours isn't. And how dare you have these beliefs, and how dare you not do this, this. Ding, ding, ding. Here's my story. I'm in a story. I got a story. Can I move into higher self? Can I move into higher self? And can I practice? Because if I can practice heart-centered consciousness, if I can practice presence, if I can practice letting go of belief, if I can get into me with somebody that irate and that pissed off at life and with that much of a divide, think of how much easier it will be when it's just like, something super simple.
I mean, think of how many times I've done this too, numerous times, where you bookmark what someone tells you that you don't agree with, and you drag it to a folder to save it for a later conversation with one of your friends. How many times have we all done that? Oh my God, they just gave me some juice. I'm going to drag that into a folder for later. That's not being the higher self. That's literally bookmarking, being out of alignment to then be out of alignment again.
It's not higher self.
I love this conversation. I mean, think about that. How many times people tell you something and you're like, "Ooh, I just caught a snag. Ooh, that's good. This is good." And
especially if you're in relationships.
Especially if you're in relationships, you pop out of your heart. You're like, let me go in my mind and drag that into that folder. And then you repeat it later to a friend and you're still not present.
Or you repeat it to them later to kind of like, remember when you said this? Remember when you did this? Remember when you did this? I'm going to hold this against you. I'm going to hold this against you. I'm going to hold this against you.
You throw it back at them.
Yeah. It's not, it's the more that you practice higher self, the more you realize how the programming that we have been in, the knee-jerk reaction programming, and the interesting piece is we all are higher. Every single human is higher self. Every single human is God. But every single human is being asked by their higher selves to get into their higher selves, right? Every human is every human. Holy shit. Oh my God. We got a long ways to go. Holy mother. Oh my God. We're just barely moving into higher self. And I feel like we're pretty damn evolved. I mean, think about this is really, really important.
This is really important.
Because this is a shortcut. This is really a shortcut. If you want a shortcut into a more expanded version of yourself and to feel, you want to move into higher states of consciousness. Everyone wants to feel these higher states of consciousness. Then instead of trying to deny or pretend or fix or change or walk away from tough things, pick up that story, stand in that story, confront that story, and use the eyes of higher self.
Beautiful.
Right?
Ooh.
Be the story. Don't hide from the story. Don't run from the story, including your own trauma. Think of your own trauma if you as higher self. Think of when you're walking around in your own life with your limiting beliefs and the beliefs that aren't even real. My whole world has changed with the belief thing. You literally shifted my whole freaking world.
But that's why I called it a cornucopia, because it's like all this fruit right now. There's so many opportunities. That's why it's called awakening, the opportunity of a lifetime. This is an opportunity of a lifetime to accelerate ourselves.
And it can happen just like this. So if even in just understanding that beliefs are not even real, like they're literally like they can be dissolved instantaneously, that they don't hold any merit.
They're basically like a storehouse or like a storage space for when you're ready to take self-responsibility.
And there's this thing about manifestation that's been coming up a lot with me lately. So if you move into higher self, Higher self doesn't manifest.
It doesn't?
No. Drop into higher self for a second. The reason why higher self doesn't manifest is because higher self trusts and knows the plan. The higher self.
Higher self actually architected the plan.
Right. The higher self is aware of what it is that you as human, as ego personality needs and is moving towards.
Mm-hmm.
So higher self isn't trying to isn't trying to create anything in your world. It's already done. So from the way so there is no such thing as manifestation in higher dimensional fields, like Palladians. They don't manifest. There's no such thing. They create in the now, period. That's all they do. They create from an intention, meaning I am, or this is now, and energy. And so the higher self is constantly connected to the human version of us, which is ego, personality, mind, that has all these manifestations that we create, but they're really just a turnout. What'd you call that? A cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac, yeah.
All the things that we manifest are cul-de-sacs, a lot of them.
It's
I
true.
want more money, cul-de-sac. I want a better house, cul-de-sac. It just makes life a little bit more enjoyable. But higher self wouldn't create all these things. Higher self just wants you to move into more love.
Higher self, I mean, even you and I can probably attest to this, because I know for me, I was really broke. But knowing what I know about being free with your money, being loose with your money, with energy, it's just energy, it's taking care of yourself. I would have always chosen the direct flight, knowing what I would have. I wouldn't have gotten on the Greyhound bus, and I did that many times. But because the higher self wants to catapult you.
Always.
Always.
The higher self doesn't care about numbers or doesn't care about fluffy things. If you want it, the higher self will deliver, right? Because the higher self's delivering. But when you move into higher self, what I mean when I say there's no manifestation is the higher self creates from a space of now. So the higher self is bringing you what is most necessary now.
Yes, I get it.
That's it.
It's already been drummed up. It's already been whipped up. And now the higher self trickles it in. And then if you're open to receiving, wonderful, you're integrating that energy. And if you're not, you're blocking it out. So you're keeping it at bay. And that, again, going back to what we talked about earlier, it's judgment that keeps it at bay, because you're keeping your glory at bay. You're keeping your higher self at bay, and you're still playing in that lower self reality. You're still playing in that old earth, in that lower version of earth, where everyone's fighting and barking at each other and tearing each other's heads off, where they're not being in the story, but they're carrying a lot of old stories and stories about the future. So I think we should end here, because I think we did such a good job. You guys, I'm going to attach links for, Lorie never asks for donations, but I'm going to attach a link for her donation link and my donation link if you guys want to donate, but we never expect it, in the description box below. And I want to thank everyone who joined us tonight. This was such a pleasant journey with you, Lorie, as always. I love you so much, and I love everyone that tuned in.
It was so fun.
So fun. I love you guys so much.